Hey, Preston.
Hey, how's it going?
How's it going there?
Not bad. It's 6 in the morning. It's pretty early.
Oh, you're in Eastern USA, are you?
Yeah, in Canada. Yep. It's Saturday, pretty early. I was like half feeling it when I got out of bed at like quarter to six.
All right.
Like I'll just get up. I think I can do this.
Yeah, good on you. Yeah, well, you're keen then. Yeah. Hi, Anton. Now tell us where you're up to with this journey, Preston.
Um, yeah, I guess that's an interesting thing, eh? So basically, after that whole shift happened, I noticed like about 2 weeks later, I got angry at something innocuous, like playing a video game or something. And I was like, it was like so much rage that I was like intense sensation in the body that I was not used to. And I was really like confused. I was like, this is not even a big deal. Like, why do I feel this? And I think before this all happened, like I'm autistic, and I would say that I had like alexithymia, where like I had no idea what I was feeling in my body at all, like complete
Right. Yeah.
confusion, right? Um, couldn't tell you where it was, what was happening, what emotion it was. Like usually, it was really hard to nail down.
Right.
Um, so this was totally new, and I was like, okay, I can tell this is anger. I can feel this in my chest. I can feel the heat. I can tell exactly what it is. So then I started to like look up more because I was just reading Angelo's book, and nothing else. So I went to his like channel and I saw like the 10 fetters stuff with Kevin Shanilak there, and then he was talking about 4 and 5 and how to work with that, just sitting with that sensation. And I did that a few times. I got angry, and it has some like really, really dissolved to the point where I just waiting kind of for it to come back because I don't know if it's going to come back. Like it's kind of just not there.
Yep.
Um, so that's pretty cool. But then it just got me kind of looking into more things. So I found um, Pernella's channel, and I'm going through her system of 10 fetters with the curriculum. So I just started from the beginning a couple weeks ago just to really get a better understanding of all the concepts to work with, just so I could spot more things in my own experience, you know? Because even though I think I'm pretty confident in like there's not much left of fetters 1 through 3, there's definitely some left of fetters 1 through 3, you know, like I can spot some of those things, some of the doubts,
Yep.
some of the selfing and how it occurs and such. So yeah, just still pretty new to it all, but not too worried about anything. Just mostly focusing on that and doing some TRE, which has really helped with the reactivity and bringing up some old stuff for sure. I don't know what it is. I just can tell like there's some deep like sadness that has come up, and there's been a lot of emotion that's come up. Cried a lot after TRE. So that's been working really effectively. I've had to pace it out and learn, how much I can take and how much I can integrate
Yep. Yeah.
basically afterwards. Yeah. And just kind of going through that. And then I've had some kind of six fetter experiences as well of like, I'm not so certain that things are solid anymore,
Mhm.
visually in a few different ways, which the first few times it happened was kind of scary. I think it was just unexpected, just kind of like the first shift.
So,
Um, but yeah, now it's becoming more and more safe and natural, I guess, to me.
right. So that's six feta stuff you're talking about. You're seeing the world in two dimensions.
I've had a two-dimensional experience, yeah, where my legs and the floor look like it was all one.
Yep. Yep.
It was very strange, and it didn't last too long, but I saw it for probably a few minutes, and it kind of bounced back and forth and normalized.
Sure. Yeah. Now
Uh,
you said you saw that they looked like one. Was it more than just a visual thing?
no, yeah, sorry, it was definitely more than a visual thing.
Yeah.
Where I was there was a sadness that like I was gone, like my body. wasn't
Yeah.
me anymore, or like it was just all one. And it
Yeah.
was scary because I didn't expect it come to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you feel about like once you got over the scariness of it, how do you feel about that sadness that turns up?
Um, it went away because of kind of the way that I dealt with it, because it kind of felt like after that happened, there was this like shadow of something over me, and it felt like sadness, is how I would describe it, or grief. Um, and I think the way that like I've kind of rationalized or conceptualized it now is that like it felt like I had let part of me go or part of me died.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then afterwards it normalized and it's okay. Now when I look at myself, my body, there's definitely a like a less rigid sense of me when
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
looking at
Sure,
it.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
But,
it's fine. It's more like a neutral feeling.
yep. So when after that sadness went, did it feel like some process? Well, words are not great here, but you know what I mean. That
Hmm.
some process that had gone on was finished. Did it feel like that for you?
Um, I think maybe I don't know if it finished. I wouldn't say to me a lot of this stuff just kind of feels like it weakens in its intensity. I don't know if finish is the right way to
Yeah.
say it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So have you what about your expectations for this journey, this whatever it is, whatever you want to call it? What are your expectations about
I had more, I think, before initially when I first started watching the non-dual stuff, but I think I'm pretty good at getting the message that like that's not going to help, like having those expectations, and because they weren't really like built up or too rigid, I've kind of let them go. Like previously my expectations were like, okay, like visually things are going to change pretty intensely for a bit and then it'll normalize and I'll be okay with that. Things like that, or that there's going to be like a moment maybe where some deep shadow stuff is going to come up and it might be intense. It might not be that intense. Like, everybody obviously has their own experience. Um, so for me, I think it's more like a matter of like now I don't know if I have too much expectations besides
yeah,
if
sounds
something
good.
goes off. Like if something's off, then maybe I have an expectation that I can change what that feeling is, or that there'll be another side to it eventually.
Yeah.
So I
Okay, so
feel pretty okay with it.
what do you think's happened to quote quote the autism that you were in a place for what most of your life where
Hmm.
you couldn't really tell what you were feeling, or let's say your connection with it was something, a bit vague or whatever, however you want to describe it. And now as a result, it would seem as a result of that shift you've had, all of a sudden your whole experience of yourself or of your body
Hmm.
is now different, eh? Is that what do you reckon about that?
Yeah, I think like I would be like previously I would be definitely described as someone who was like very cerebral and lived inside my head all the time. And there was no way to tell what thought was intentional thinking or an automatic thought.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, it was one into the other, and I lived there. So anything that was happening in my body, I'm pretty sure was completely hidden by that.
right.
And constantly, talking myself through every emotion that came up, whether positive or negative emotions. It doesn't really matter if they're positive or negative, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and there was always like a rational part to it, or trying to rationalize it to keep myself safe. And once that was gone, that safe haven, if you want to call it, in the mind was gone. I was
yeah.
actually really in tune with the body. And now it's like not even just emotionally in tune with the body. It's more like kind of every little sensation. Like I've
Yeah,
ate too much. I'm hungry now. Like, because all those things kind of come with
yeah,
alexithymia. Like
yeah.
tell my hunger levels.
Wow. Yeah, I'm excited. That's great, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Now I forgot the next question I was going to ask. I had it in mind, but it's gone. Oh yeah, I know. Mind that triggered it for me. So would you say that what's happened is that you've your relationship with your thoughts has changed, and one way to describe that might be that you're no longer how can I put it, confined by the parameters of your thoughts.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to describe it. The way I like to say it is like they've taken a complete backseat when they used to take all the attention.
I like that. Yeah, yeah,
And now it's like they barely take any. Even actually to the point that the first thing I noticed right away um, was that the voice in my head is so quiet and distant, like audibly distant and quiet. And even when I have like a song stuck in my head, it sounds like it's so far away
yeah,
and I can't even be bothered by it. It's crazy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, great, good stuff. Yeah. So, what about doubts? Have you experienced something that you might call doubts?
Yeah, but when it happened, I was full of doubt because I was completely shocked that I had to like look up and like figure out like, okay, what's going on here? What did I experience? So that was when I started searching for some answers about what that is, like that flip
Mm.
and that the whole thing. And that took a couple weeks, I think, to like hear enough other stories from people to really confirm like, yeah, this is exactly what I'm experiencing. Okay.
Right,
I'm
right.
okay with that now. And for sure, like I was also worried, like, is this gonna change back or whatever? And
Yeah,
then like a few weeks later, like the thoughts kind of got stickier than usual, and I found myself stuck in them. I actually reached out to Daniel Schmidt at the Samadhi Center. He's like, I don't know if you know who he is, but he was on like Angelo's channel for an interview, and he did Awaken the World. I haven't watched any of his stuff
yeah, yeah,
lately.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he had a meetup and Q&A, so I reached out to him a bit ago and jumped into his chat and asked him some questions, and he was good at like really explaining like, yeah, that's pretty normal. I've heard this kind of stuff before. Like what I was experiencing was almost like sleeping while awake,
Yeah.
like where I would be so trapped in thought that I wasn't even aware of myself anymore for a moment, and then I would have like an actual like electrical snap sound in my brain. I could hear it like a bzz,
Yeah.
and it would wake me up. And it happened sometimes like multiple times within a minute. And I had no idea what was going on. I'm like, is this like an aneurysm that I can feel? you know? And then he described them as like he's heard of them before as like mini wake ups. And it kind of happened afterwards. So that put my mind at ease to know that like, okay,
Yeah.
other people experience that too.
Right. So before Angelo and Panilla and what you've mentioned so far, did you get into books and YouTube videos and whatever and how long have you been seeking for? I guess that was really my question.
Well, I'm 39 now. I would say that it kind of started around like 21, but only on like a very like on a very much like I grew up through a lot of different religious systems, of the traditional Christian types, Catholic, Mormon, there's like Jehovah's Witness and Lutheran and so on in the
Right.
family. None of it stuck or worked with me. And around 21 or so, or 23, I can't remember exactly. I went to like a Buddhist retreat for a day, and this was not like a Western Buddhist. It was here, like in the West, but it was like classic, like Chinese
Yeah,
Buddhist
yeah.
temple where, yeah, I had learned like the 88 prayers and all this systems and stuff, and none of it really spoke to me, but the stories were interesting for sure, and there was something there, and I felt like the whole system just didn't do anything for me, but tickled an interest, say. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I kind of didn't really do anything until COVID happened. And of course, like many people, I'm like, well, I got all this time on my hands. I'm stuck at home. I'm gonna learn to properly meditate on some system, because I've never done that. So I ended up finding a Sadhguru meditation called like the Isha Kriya. And this is about 2020. And it was like a 45-day thing where you do it day and night. And I had done it 45 days and I felt pretty good about myself. Like things were cool. And then I was still doing it, but just once a day. And then one time when I was doing it, and I know in hindsight what happened. I was doing the meditation, and there's a moment where you like say like 7 times, and then after that somehow that triggers like your mind to be pretty clear and quiet
Mm.
for some duration afterwards. Well, I mean, I've been doing this for over 45 days at that point, and then when I did that, there was a moment where I really freaked out because it felt like physically, like my eyes are closed. It felt like I was sitting behind and beside myself. Like
Yes.
I wasn't in my body for a moment. And then the panic and fear hit very hard. I thought I was like immediately there was a thought there in that was like, what if I can't go back to my body?
Yeah. Yeah.
and and I woke up and I was like, okay, I don't think I should do this anymore because I had no other guidance about what I was experiencing. Now I know that it was just the ego death, like, or not death, but like the ego freaking out that I was separated from my thoughts for a second and there was no thoughts.
Okay.
And when I did it this time, like I have never revisited it until I saw Angela's book. And then in Angela's book, it's like, yeah, you're gonna feel some fear when you do this, when you do these inquiries, and the thoughts slow down. And I was like, okay, and I did, but I pushed through it this time instead of giving up.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. Right.
So yeah,
Oh.
that's kind of the whole search. I knew it started like many years ago, but that taste back in 2020, I think lit a fire that I just tried to like bury and I
Mm.
just didn't acknowledge until I kind of got to such a low point in autistic burnout, that it was really easy to push through that fear. I mean, I say easy, but like easy only because I was in such a place of desperation and like,
Yeah.
non-suicidal ideation is what I would say, where I didn't want to commit suicide, but at the same time, it's like I don't really care if I die. So
Yeah. Yeah.
let's see where this goes. So it was a little easier, I think, for me to give up in that situation and surrender.
Yes. Yeah. And you'd had a taste before of it as well, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so that all sounds really good to me. It sounds like you're in a really good place. Um, there was something you mentioned in the beginning about um, well, a concern. Mm,
Sure.
yeah, can we go and tell me a bit about that? What are your worries?
Um, I do slightly worry about some of the deep shadow stuff coming up. And it's not so much I'm worried about how to deal with it when it happens. I feel pretty equipped with some concepts and techniques to deal with that.
Yeah.
Um, Mostly, I think my concern more might be like to make sure that I'm not diverting from it. Um, and
Okay. Yeah.
I feel pretty good about that. Like when I feel a sensation, like something like almost like a stuck ball in my chest. And I really try to sit with it. And I can tell that there's like resistance to it. So it's like this really like kind of delicate, like I can touch into it and it kind of just like it gets away from me after a while when I sit with it. And it's almost like it's like, okay, maybe it's not ready. So I've been trying to like talk to myself and coach it like out of like it's safe, like you can, it's okay. You can stay, you can go, whatever, like just trying different ways of like kind of interacting with it
Yeah.
and not really meeting much. It's come up a bit and there's been some tears and then it kind of just softens
Sure.
and then
Okay.
yeah.
Now you mentioned the word resistance. You said like there's some resistance to it. What
Mhm.
what do you just play with stories here? What do you
Yeah.
imagine was the resistance to allowing it to do something, or was there, what was the resistance about? Just first thing that comes to mind. It doesn't have to be accurate.
Yeah. I'm like a make it like a physical resistance is how I would describe it. It's not like there's no like story to it because I don't know what it is. And it's almost like I can't quite get close to it. Like I can't quite lock down where it is and really truly grab it and embrace it. I just can't quite get it. Maybe it's like it's slippery or something. It doesn't move, but that's not quite the way to describe it.
Yeah, yeah. Is there a story somewhere that says you've got to do something about it?
Um, no, I don't think there's a story, but there's definitely like a feeling, like an urge, like this wants some attention. Not all
Hmm.
my attention, but it wants some of it. That's for sure.
So how will you know? How will you know when it's satisfied?
Um, I would say it might be satisfied if it doesn't appear again. I don't
Okay,
know really. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm not sure.
right. So is there somewhere an idea that if these things appear, well, what do you think they might mean when they appear? Right. So
Um,
we're presuming, of course, that you're imagining that it'll be better when they don't appear for some reason.
yeah, perhaps. I think it's some trauma um, is just unresolved. Like I can know, like I have memories of like traumatic stuff or stuff that should be traumatic, I would imagine.
Hmm.
But when those memories come up, there's very few emotions tied to them, and it's hard to say like what that is because it's again like alexithymia and things like that. But also like I've been through some therapy to deal with stuff. I've been very open most of my adult life talking about the different issues and
Yep.
traumas I've had. So, and not just like in a storytelling way, but I mean like, to like breaking down in front of therapists kind of way.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like it's some of it's dealt with, but some of it I think could be like now that I've spent a bunch of time now learning about trauma, some of it might just be stuff with no memories attached to it, and that's why there's tears and no visual
Yeah.
thoughts.
So do
So
you have is there a concept that you're somewhat like a container that's got these experiences somehow stored somewhere in you that need to be resolved or expelled or whatever?
yeah, I would say that's kind of how it feels. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I would say like that's like pretty accurate.
Yep.
I mean, it's like when I close my eyes, it doesn't quite feel like a container, but when I feel like a sensation like that, it does.
Yeah, yeah, it's just a shitty metaphor, isn't it? But
No, no, it's okay. Yeah, I gotcha.
that, yeah. Um, so have you got an idea that you're going to come to some resting point where you can say that you're there? Uh, sounds stupid as soon as I say it. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, like back, I guess, on expectations, I guess I do have that sort of that. I've had those moments where I can feel like I guess they were like non-dual experiences is what people, but for me it was more like I could feel this really great like kind of love with everybody. Like I would walk down the street and I'm like, everybody looks so great. Like just beaming. And I'm like, not that I want to feel that all the time, but I know that like from how people describe it and how I've felt it, where I could see myself in like inanimate objects. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, wait, there's a closeness here that, and then it kind of goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd have an expectation that that may come back, or maybe that's like kind of like a place of resting is like when I'm experiencing that.
Right.
But I'm not holding that too tightly because it's kind of like those
Yeah.
moments kind of feel like when you're high, like
Yep.
so I'm not too hung up on those moments when I was high. I'm not really too worried about it, but I kind
Yep.
of have there's a slight expectation there for sure.
Right. Yep. So let's try and paint a picture of the terminology I would use would be the hero at the end of the journey. What does he look like to you?
Hmm.
How does he respond to circumstances, whatever they are?
Um, I I don't know if I have another way that I gotta say for the first time in my life, I'm very content with how I respond now to circumstances.
Yep.
Um, and the small improvements that are made when I notice things coming up. I'm just so much more like content with myself than I've ever been before. but I mean, a lifelong of depression and anxiety might do that to you. Uh, so that might be it. But like the other day, for instance, I went somewhere to pick up something and they didn't have my paperwork ready. And I walked there like it was like 45-minute walk, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go walk there. I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna, you know, and there was an expectation that I was going there to pick up something, I guess, like a thought of it. But when I
Yeah.
got there, nothing was ready. They didn't have my paperwork, and they were like, we can't do anything for you today. And there was no physical sensation reaction at all. And I was just like, oh, okay. And then like for instance, so I noticed that I didn't get angry, I didn't get sad or upset, but I victimized myself, which I was able to see from like Pranella's stuff of like saying like, oh yeah, it's like a 45-minute walk. And I was like, oh crap, I'm making like it a reason to make this a problem, like and put myself as a victim. So like in hindsight, it's like I don't need to do that now, and I'm really content with that process that like, look, I didn't react. I did this and it's like, okay, I can see that I don't need to do that anymore. And I'm okay with that. So I don't
Yeah.
know if there's a difference in that besides just slowly working on those things, and
That's a good
that's
one. Yeah,
it.
I like that. That's a big one, actually, a really, really big one. So what if I get it right? What you experienced was a different the fact that you were there was would you say there was disappointment, but it was held very lightly until the
Mhm.
mind come in saying, well, you should be upset about this. Would that
Yeah.
how close
Yeah. And
is that? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it wasn't very strong when the mind came in to say that. And I was just like, oh, like immediately I could recognize that as like, there's no reason to even do that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and now I can see it. Like I think as I experience more and more of those situations, where
Yeah.
I should be reacting the way I used to or whatever, and I don't, I can slow down and I can reflect more on them. And just I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel pretty good about that, to be honest. I don't
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like I don't know if I have like, yeah, like an end goal in how I am like that.
Good
I
stuff.
feel
Yeah.
I feel
That-
pretty good about it right now. So
yeah.
yeah.
It's interesting. It sounds good to me. I like what I'm hearing. It sounds really good. Yeah. Anton here was cacking himself a second ago. What was going on for you, Anton? What thoughts did you have? Yeah, Anton disagrees with me sometimes. Yeah.
No, I had a moment right now that I was with my eyes closed for some time, and then I opened my eyes and I saw new people that come
Ah,
in,
yeah.
and I saw that all of them without the uh, I cannot see him
Yeah. Yeah.
without the camera, and a thought came that, oh, I am the only one from the that
Yeah.
turned it on, and the thought like that, I don't know, something like you should be as everyone or something like that. So I giggled as I saw that I don't need to respond to this, and it's does not have any meaning. So yeah, that's all.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. Well. Oh, Preston, I don't know where to go with this now. I'm loving what I'm hearing. It sounds pretty good to me. There's a few ideas that maybe could be clarified and cleaned up a little bit, but that'll happen as we talk. Um, so I
Yeah,
think
that's cool.
for these groups is there's nothing's formal, right? We keep it really informal. Say what you like, say when you like, jump in, don't have to ask permission to talk. Um, you'll hear well, I hope you'll hear different people's perspective about all sorts of things, and it'll give you a chance to um, uh, compare. That's,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like that's kind of like what I found with like the videos and stuff is, like I recognize that these are all pointers and they're concepts and that we can't, you're trying to verbalize something that doesn't have language to it, and I get that. That makes sense to me. So
Yeah,
that's how it is for me, you know, and I just kind of like don't take it all too seriously, but occasionally something will just tickle an interest and like I'm gonna investigate that. Like that gives me an idea, you
yeah,
know. And that's cool with me. You know, I would say that like some things like I'm very much at a point where I can at least say that like I've experienced a mostly dualistic world still. I can tell, you know, from what people say and how I experience things, subject object. It's very much there. And that's fine. But
sure.
like it like I have a direction of like, you know, a pointing direction of like this is what I'm gonna look at. And I'm just taking my time to go through those fetters to kind of, you know, I guess weed out anything that maybe is gonna be blocking me somewhere. And just take it as it comes, you know.
Okay, so what comes to mind now is, so what are you going to do when all that's done and finished?
Probably same thing I did before, but now at least without depression and anxiety on me and stress, because stress has completely fallen away too. Um, I would say, yeah, I'm just going to just continue to live my life. I don't know if I really have anything else to like aspire to. I mean, before I thought I was better off dead. And now that's not even a possibility. Like
Yeah,
I don't even think about that ever. It doesn't come up. Like how it's almost like how could I have thought that before? Um, yeah.
yeah,
So if anything, it's just like there's some simple things, you know, that like goals in the life that I'm gonna try to, I guess, work towards and see how they go. And yeah, if anything, like I think the one thing that's I've thought about when I think about the future, which isn't too much, but when I think about it, it's I can be there for people now in a way that I couldn't before. Instead of being all about myself and my own life and my own shit, I can be there to help other people in my life, you know, support them better, which I could never do. I always kind of wanted to, but I just never really could.
yeah, it's a good one and it's a tricky one too. Yeah, one of the I learned some pretty severe lessons earlier on when I was so excited about this stuff that I thought that the whole world should wake up and I wanted to help everybody. And
Mhm.
I got to eat humble pie fairly quickly. So yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, those who want help, those who ask for help, that's a different story. But I would advise you don't don't push it on anybody who's not asking for it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here. Good stuff. Yeah. So if there's anything comes up that you want to look at, certainly bring it up, jump in and mention it. Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll definitely do that.
Yeah. My personally, I kind of shy away from the idea of non-duality and ideas about what it should be like. You know, I would see this stuff not as spiritual anything, but rather just becoming more uncluttered humanly, if you know what I mean. Just getting a bit closer to the innocence that we had before we got conditioned into whatever state we got into. So it's really, I'm not even looking, I would never use the word enlightenment in relation to anything actual because I've no idea what that is. And even awakening, I'm now seeing awakening as a weird concept that's not got much to do with reality, but yeah, it's just a way of describing some things. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree on like that subject of like what you just said, like you're kind of clearing out, you're decluttering, you know, the human side of things, yourself, all these things that are in you, I guess, are blocking you and
Yeah,
restricting you or however. Yeah. It's kind of how it feels. It's just
yeah,
kind of like, it kind of feels like, I guess, that awakening moment really just like gave me an opportunity or forced an opportunity on me to deal with all that shit that really is holding me back in different ways and restricting me. And wow, like it, you know, like the other day I had a kind of a shift for no reason. I just something came up and it was just kind of like, and I was trying to, it was almost like I needed to conceptualize what happened reflecting back on it. And I was like, what was it? And it was like, oh yeah, I don't have all my baggage anymore. That's what I lost. And then I started crying and falling, and I was like laughing at the same time. And it was just like, I don't know, like almost like it finished, something finished. I could tell something finished, but I don't know what it was, you know?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's good, and that's I would say describe that, as just maybe your intuition kind of tells you that something is resolved or something is no longer
yeah.
pushing, pulling, or something, whatever that is. Yeah, I've I used to believe, I used to hold the concept that we had unexpressed trauma in us, and that it would be held in muscle memory and so on if there are no actual memories involving it. But these days, I don't see it that way. I much more would describe it, in my mind at least, in my story, is that it only exists as potential until it gets triggered. And once it gets triggered, it manifests into something that we respond to. But it will always pass as well. So whether or not in that process of it arising and passing, we resolve something, and then it doesn't need to ever come back. The potential is exhausted, if you like. Um, but
Okay.
sometimes it'll need to come up a few times because it's pretty big, or however you want to describe it. It gets really hard to use words here because they're not quite up to the job, I think. Yeah. So I don't see anybody now as having a residue of stuff that needs to be cleaned out before they can say they're awake or whatever. So to me, the awakening thing is not about whether stuff turns up or not, but rather how do we respond to it? What's our relationship to it? And therefore, how do we respond to it? So if we take it personally and we respond to it in a defensive way, then we've still got that illusion of a self active that we're responding to, because um, we need to defend something. On the other hand, if we see what comes up with a sense of interest and amusement, and as a result of having that kind of relationship to it, there's not resistance to it. Um, and we can generally, it'll dissolve simply by being expressed, by being recognized and expressed, even though we may not know what it is. We don't have to know what it is. We can know that it's just something. So I've got a different idea these days than what I used to have about that stuff. But yeah. And anyway, it's just my idea, see. So of course everybody's different. Everybody has their own experience, and yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that. That makes sense to me. Yeah, and I think that's just my experience, right? Is that like that it gave me like the clarity to deal with that suddenly. Whereas before I had no idea that I was being activated and triggered and so on, but then I could see the pattern. Whereas before I couldn't. I was just lost in it. And that's what it felt like to me, was an
Yeah.
opportunity and to see that.
Great. Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, yeah.
Very uncomfortable though. That first time I got angry, I was really, really uncomfortable. I was like, this is not normal for me. Looking back at it now, it's just funny, but yeah.
Yeah. So there was kind of two aspects to that. One is that it wasn't normal, it wasn't usual for you. And
Yeah.
the other one was about whether it shouldn't be there.
Nah, I don't know if it was that. It was more like I think there was like in the moment I recognized that it was probably always like that, but I wasn't able to tell a story in my head to get rid of it and rationalize it, talk my way out of it. And I could tell like it tried to. Like there was a moment there where that engine started up, but it wasn't working. The sensation in my body just kept getting stronger, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know what to do with this."
Right.
So I had to learn some concepts of how to sit with it. And that changed everything.
yeah, yeah. So that learning what to do with it was recognizing that the the best thing to do was to just be aware of it, to be with it.
Yeah, sit
Yeah,
with it. I just took some time and sat with it. And like, I think the first time I did that, it was probably a good 5 minutes before it dissolved, like a really good 5 whole minutes. And then the next time it came up, it was maybe a minute, you know. And I think it's come up a little bit. Like there's almost a little flare up when it happens. Maybe that's just what it is now, and that's where it's going to stay, and that's fine. It's a
yeah.
few seconds,
Well,
five to ten
who
seconds.
knows? Even that maybe. And so, what the next thing is that you might find is that it happens less frequently,
Yeah.
and so it'll be interesting to find whether or not it's as intense or more intense or less intense when it does turn up. Any of those things are possible, of course, but
Mhm.
the usual thing will be that it won't last very long when it comes up. It'll be like seconds sometimes even. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've kind of, done that intentionally, like playing video games where I love like it was mostly what I work in game development, so most of my life is video games. But like yeah, play video games that intentionally get me angry, just to kind of see what happens. And I
Yeah.
might I might dabble in that more just to see how it goes because I'm kind of curious.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, so as you do that, a part of you will be watching. You've already kind of opened up the door to metacognition. You're aware that you're aware, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, good
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, I like it. Yeah. So, what have you had any thoughts about guiding people?
A little bit. Um, a little bit. I think it's like I can help maybe I think I can help maybe on like the first few steps of like really starting to look at it just because I feel like I live most of my life in that. Um and I don't know, to me that seems really solid as far as like trying to help someone in like the concepts and language around like, you know, what it felt like to be stuck in my head all the time because I was
Yeah.
that person.
Yeah.
Past that, I'm learning and about myself and from others and hearing other people's
Oh,
situations. So I'm not sure.
of course, good stuff. Yeah. So, what about this one? This is a huge one. Do you think you've gone from neurodivergent to not neurodivergent?
I've thought about that a bit too. Yeah. I think now that if I were to sit with a psychologist and do another, like autism test assignment or diagnosis, I don't know that the result would have been the same.
Mm.
Because there's
Yeah.
certain things that I think are fundamental body parts of it, right? The nervous system
Oh,
um, reacts different and such.
mm,
But even then, like loud sounds or sounds that would normally irritate me just don't matter anymore.
mm,
Like it's weird. Like I can tell when something is loud, and maybe it might damage my actual hearing, of course, but it's not like they're like the irritation, the like whole body cringing from sounds
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
happen the same.
yeah, yeah.
I also was really, really prone to like smells, like flowery smells, like really would hurt and cause anger. Um, and it was just like overstimulation in hindsight now, and now when I have it, it's like, okay, I can feel it. I can feel my nose get really tight and there's pain in my nose, but there's no like it doesn't go past that. So I think there's always going to be those parts of the body that are just biological nervous responses that I don't know if I can do anything about or change that come from that the autism.
Yeah,
Um, it's
yeah,
even like how medications work too. Like they have to dose you differently because you're more sensitive or less sensitive with medications.
right.
And so we'll see how that goes. I actually stopped taking ADHD meds shortly after this because that's another thing. I There's no concentration issues anymore.
Right. So that was Ritalin, was it, or a version of?
Something it was a non like amphetamine type. It was Strattera.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
but it was making me sick. Just before this like started all happening, I was getting a lot of stomach issues, nausea from taking them. So I was kind of wanted to get rid of them, and then I weaned down, and then eventually like the nausea didn't go away weaning down. So I talked to the doctor and said I'm just going to stop, and that's like 4 or 5 weeks ago now, and there
Oh
was some
yeah.
brain fog, there was some focus issues because I got it out of my body, but I think now I feel better than I ever did with the meds.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. So that take a couple of weeks to for that brain fog to clear up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. I'm really pleased to hear that you gradually wound down and that you did it in conjunction with a doctor. That was all good value. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah. What a great place you're in. What a great life experience you've had, eh? Brilliant.
Yeah, it was great. I talked to my dad about this yesterday because I haven't said anything in a while. The last thing was like I'm taking time off work. I took a sick leave for the burnout, and I was in a really pretty shitty place. So I know, like he was all worried about me, but
Mm.
it was good to be able to give that update and been like, well, things are very different. And my dad's pretty open about that kind of stuff,
Good. Good.
meditation practices, and has experienced some shifts during running, triathlete. So like, when you do those high end running and you're running to that type of fatigue, there's some things that happen to people in those moments too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
open. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That in the zone, so to speak. Yeah. Right. Something else come up and I'd forgotten about it already. Um, yeah, never mind. And, um, I just mentioned there, that, falling into silence happens here a bit, and it's always interesting to watch what happens in the head when there is silence. And I generally don't ask people who haven't turned their cameras on to about what's going on, but I'm glad I did with you. Because,
Oh, yeah, it's just super dark in here, and my wife's sleeping, and I just try not to like turn lights
yeah, yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's probably what it's about 7 a.m. where you are.
Yeah, it's almost 7 yet. Yeah, one other thing that kind of changed for me in the past couple weeks is that so I was using a lot of guided meditations because I really didn't have like a meditation practice, and I was doing that for a while after everything, and I was like, okay, but I noticed the past couple weeks, I'm like, this is just not working for me. So I ended up just kind of switching to just sitting, partially based on like multiple times I've heard it from different people, and in like Pernella's advice too of like the toxic starting point, of, like just try just sitting and such. And I'm like, okay, and that's been much more, I think, effective for me. Kind of
Yeah,
like, yeah, it was kind of like, I'm so used to just following along to something, and having something guide. But after that, I was like, I guess that's not working because I don't need it. I guess I don't know. And now I just sit. So that's kind of been my thing now is just, setting aside some time and just sitting.
that's a good one. I like that. So tell me, what is just sitting? Do you notice your thoughts? Do you notice your sensations? Do you notice your breathing? Do you?
Yeah, I kind of sit my keep my awareness on my breath or my heartbeat sometimes, depending on I guess how whatever is more interesting at the time, or maybe I shift from one to the other. And then I notice the sensations that kind of come up in the body. Maybe I have some pain and I kind of sit with the pain. Like I have a bad shoulder, so I kind of sit with it. and just I don't know. Part of me just kind of like wants to be more comfortable with that pain, so I spend more time with it. Um, and then like, yeah, I notice thoughts that come up, and it's weird because when I mean, and just in general, it's like I'm very, very like kind of I think I'm more hyper vigilant now to my thoughts in a way of like not giving them enough attention, of course. Like it's not really like that, but it's more like they like when one happens and it catches my attention, what's the way I want to say this? It's like when something happens and it catches my attention, it's like it's really obvious that it's different than the rest of the thoughts that I don't notice. You know?
Yeah,
So when
yeah,
I'm in those just sitting, it's like that's clearer to me when that happens.
yeah, yeah. So those thoughts that are useful come with a different kind of flavor that tells you that there's something worth looking at there. Whereas a whole lot of them are just there.
Yeah.
So we could say they're just rubbish, or they're just repeats, or they're just whatever, but they are whatever they are. They really I don't even. I mean, I could say they're there by logic, but I couldn't tell you what they're about because I'm not paying any attention to them. But then there's other ones that do say, well, you need to go to your calendar and put that in, kind of thing. Well, no, maybe thoughts don't even say that. It just seems to happen. Yeah. Thoughts might tag along afterwards about it, but yeah, they're not the guiding force. Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed like this is my interpretation of how it feels for me, but it feels like when kind of I guess it's the ego, the mind, the whatever kind of gives up and goes to like, well, I'm not getting any attention. It just sits there and tries to play different songs. That's what it's like for me. But I come from a place of like I did music for a long time. Like I did vocals and played in bands and stuff. So music is like a strong pull. And it's just sits there and just plays songs, and it's like not even like it would be before, where it'd be like an earworm. That
Yeah.
would still sort of happen, but it shifts through a lot of different songs, and
Yeah.
they're really quiet, they're really far away, and you know, it's less and less that I find myself even like pulling towards it to like, oh, I want to like engage with that because I really like that song. Even that's just like less and
So
less and less and less.
is your experience with something like that the music or the words, the meaning of the words, or
It's the music for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Sometimes the lyrics will catch me, but the lyrics themselves aren't so relevant.
I always, especially when I was younger, well, even so, even now, the lyrics, I'm hearing them as sound, so they're kind of part of the music rather than actually listening to the words and making sense of that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's how I experience it too. Like I found that like when I was writing music, this is going back almost 20 years now, but like when I was writing music, that was a really cathartic way to get through a bunch of stuff that, I had dealt with. And then when you perform that song like 100 times, you know,
Yeah,
it really takes all the meaning out of whatever you put in. Not like takes all the meaning out, I guess, like, but it's like, it's almost like a therapy. Like you've worked
yeah,
through this to a point when you put all your emotion into the vocals, into the singing and so on. Like I did death metal, right? So it was a lot of screaming and stuff and growling. And when you put all your emotion into it, you really don't have anything else to give it. And at that point, you're just refining the sound and
yeah.
you're emotionally not attached anymore. Um, I don't know. It's almost like a therapy. And I can see why so many people do that.
So it sounds like what your style of music was kind of a heavy metal kind of sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I've been doing some songs recently. Actually, if you give me your email address, I'll add you to the list, and you'll get notification of stories and songs that I've been doing on Substack. Um, but I've been mucking around with AI, writing lyrics and then putting it into Suno and getting it to make a song out of it, and having a bit of fun with that one. Um, but meaningful lyrics. So, you know, how the idea of the music is to enhance what the lyrics are about. And but the I'm really pushing for the lyrics to be clear, to even to the point where I'm adding the lyrics so people can read it as they listen to it if they want to, which makes sense for me. I do that. If I want to hear the words, it's good to be able to read it. I prefer to have the subtitles turned on the television set, um, rather than just listening to it because I miss so many words. I'm a bit deaf. Yeah. But I never was good at hearing the words. So I can read the subtitles and not even realize I'm reading it. It happens automatically. It's kind of good. Mm.
Yeah, that's cool. I followed you on Substack. If it's I don't know if it's a different Substack than the one that you sent me, but I followed you on one of them.
Oh, okay. So you got that already. Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Excellent.
It was kind of interesting, related to music, but a few weeks ago, one of my favorite bands that happens to actually be from Montreal too, which was so like when I moved here, I was like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna be able to see them, and I'm gonna go see them in a week. They have a show coming up, and they just released their new album, and they're about the same age as me and a little older. So like they're in their 40s, maybe the like oldest guy might be 50. They're still like a death metal band and everything, but they released a new album and it's called Shadow Work. And I
It's,
was like, interesting. So I like go through some of the songs, and you know they're varying, but there's some very clear ones of like how that guy was going through his shadow work, you could say,
yeah,
and like
yeah,
describing it in the lyrics, which was really cool.
yeah. It's amazing. It's like when you buy a new car, you suddenly notice all the other vehicles on the road are the same model or same make.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
synchronicity is what I call it. You'll notice lots of things. It's amazing how much music, how many movies, how many things will reflect the stuff that you're into now without even they don't even know they're doing it, you know, and yet there they are doing it. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, that was a cool synchronicity moment there. Just oh, okay. So you guys are doing that too. Maybe it's the age, I don't know.
Mm. So, what was your intention with coming here? What was the? Did you have thoughts about what might happen being in this group?
Um, a little bit. I felt like this is pretty much what it would be like. From watching the videos on Brunel's channel, and when you talk and how you talk about things, it's very relaxed. It's not such a formal
Yeah,
situation, and my I guess my thoughts were that it might just be like that, and it's just cool to be able to talk to somebody else about this kind of stuff and bounce stuff off of. And
yeah,
I
good.
don't really have any expectations other than like I'm certain that I will hear something from somebody at some point that'll probably give me an idea or tickle something and say, "Hey, I should look into that. Maybe that's something for me." And maybe I
Yeah,
know that experience.
yep, yeah, me too. That's good stuff. Yeah, yeah. So a lot of the what shitty words again, but a lot of the deepening that happens kind of happens without us even realizing it's happening sometimes. You know, we just hear things and things just settle in, integration takes place. And a lot of what, depending, you know, I suspect that it takes a while for the nervous system to catch up with what we've realized as well. So that's why a lot of the triggering can happen. It's just simply because the nervous system hasn't caught up with what we now see as reality, quote, reality. Mm.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Because I can still feel like when I go out in public, because I had a lot of anxiety going out in public, like many people do with autism, of course. It's just kind of part of it. But I can feel it, like that flutter in my chest is there. Um, and instead of like being in my head of like trying to tell myself it's okay, it's fine, everybody else is fine, look it, you don't need to feel this way, and so on and so on. All these stories I would tell myself. Now it's just I there's a flutter in my chest and I can see it's there.
Yeah,
And I
excellent.
just go on and that's it. Even like a little bit of like things, there's other side effects. Like you sweat more, like you heat up. That's how anxiety is for me, at least. I heat up, I sweat more, I feel all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, yeah, it's fine. It doesn't cloud me, which is really nice. It doesn't also make me want to leave the situation, which is also good.
Yeah.
So slowly putting myself into those situations as well. I'm trying not to like overload myself with those type of things. But
Yeah, yeah, you manage it better, yeah. But also, as you do expose yourself, and they'll kind of subside in the effect that they have. Um, I imagine that they that will happen. Yeah,
yeah.
it'll all become very normal pretty quickly, actually. Yeah, and then you go, "What the fuck is this waking up stuff?" It's just bullshit, isn't it?
That was kind of like what when the like, 'cause it hit me like a bolt of lightning when it happened. And everything went black, and I started laughing and crying, and it was everything at once. It was every emotion I could possibly just force out of my body at once. And then when I kind of settled for a moment, I said, "Wait, was that it? That's all it was? What?" Like I just couldn't believe it. It was like a big joke. It was so weird. That's why it was such a doubt that came afterwards because I'm like, that's too simple. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Uh, but it's all settled now. Like the doubt settled of that. But it was just so funny at the time, laughing myself silly.
yeah,
It's a little brighter in here. I wonder if the camera can pick up anything. Might be able to. There's like a low light mode too. Right, it's a little better.
yeah. You get the reflection off your screen. Yeah,
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I think there's a low light. Yeah, it doesn't really help.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Meh. Yeah, it's interesting. Like when I was actually thinking about this the other day, I'm not even sure why. It was kind of like almost like was caught in a thought, and I was like thinking about how would I describe this, and I don't know why. Maybe it's like I wanted myself to have a story, or I needed to feel like I needed to tell a story. Maybe I'll write it down one day. I don't know, but so what kind of led up to this burnout was pretty interesting, and now I kind of think that it was like a lot of weakening of like identity, and maybe it was really helpful. Probably it was probably really helpful. So just to like quick recap of like what happened over two or the last 3 years. So I lost my job just after COVID, like 2021, 2022. I got a job offer to move from like Ontario to Quebec. So it's going from the English to the French side of Canada, which I'm not native French, of course. And now I'm much better where I am, but still like not very good at it. And doing that immediately threw me into a culture shock. And all of my scripts and ways that I operated socially as an autistic person, which I at the time I didn't know I was autistic, didn't work anymore because it's a different language and it's a different culture, and people just don't even have the same body language when they communicate and so on. And I completely started to freak out, like have these mini freakouts of like I don't feel stable anymore. Um, and then I got the diagnosis because I had some money from the house sale. I was able to go and get private diagnosis of the autism. So um, I I first went in because I'm like, I think it's ADHD, and I did that, and they were like, "Hey, you should get tested for autism." I was like, "No way!" So I did, and they came back like, "You're autistic." Like, okay. And then at this time, I'm doing my new job. I'm struggling in a culture where I don't understand things, and then I'm traveling a lot for my job. So I'm going to other cultures. Like I went to Brazil for the first time, went to the UK for the first time, France. like all these different places, experiencing all these things, really out of my comfort zone. Um, and then the burnout started. We ended up getting married recently, so there's another big life change. And then more and more things happened, and more destabilization, and more burnout to the point where it was like the last time I had like autistic burnout like that, I didn't know it was at the time, was in high school. And I dropped out of school. Like I locked myself in my room for like a week, and it was a really bad time. And and I think now, in hindsight, I look at that all as like, oh, that was like really destabilizing all that identity that I had, and probably really helped get me here. And I
Yeah,
really I'm thankful for it. I'm grateful for it. But
yeah,
at the time, it was like torture, and you don't know until it's over. You can look back and appreciate it and be like, I think that was really helpful. That's how it feels to me.
yeah. Great
So,
stuff. Yeah, that was a question that was sitting in my mind, but you answered it before I asked it. You know that I was going to say, how much do you think the burnout precipitated and helped this process for going? And it's pretty frequent that people do have a burnout, and out of that burnout they wake up. You know
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, makes sense. And before leading up to that too, I remember there was like I have a social worker here, so they get to see me before and after, and they're like completely floored because I'm like a totally different person to them, and they barely knew me before. But I reached out when I was really having trouble, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And there was a moment before I even bought that book from Angelo, before I even read that, before I read anything online at all, I was just there was something in me that was just like, I can tell that like my thoughts are not my thoughts. I don't know. It was just intuitive at that point. Like I think of being tortured to a point where I'm like, this is not like I don't want these. I don't feel this way. Like for real, this doesn't line up with how my values are like or like how I want to behave. And I could just tell. I'm like, the thing. No one's talking about this. What is this? Like like there's something here. I knew there's something here, and then it just all made sense like
Yeah,
suddenly.
you don't have to be autistic for that one. I mean, it pretty well
Oh no.
everybody that's on this path starts at a really young age, realizing that they don't think the way most people do. They don't see the world the way most people do. So welcome to the community of weirdos. That's what I say. Love it. Yeah. Yeah.
That's good.
Actually, I'm doing a song at the moment. I'll probably I'm a couple of days ahead of myself, so it'll be in the next week or so. And it was a song about. I always knew things were different. All the other kids were out running around and playing while I was trying to work out why the light was doing what the light did. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's just like it's funny. I think like when I hear things like that, it's like that's how it was for me too. Like I before
Yeah.
like being diagnosed, of course, it was just like I had all the like hallmarks of what autism was. I just didn't know what they were because I wasn't educated on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the same. I just didn't click with pretty much anybody in the same way. A few times here and there, but I just felt like an alien most of my life.
Yeah. So one of the things that comes to mind there, where because you're using the word autism a lot, and I understand where that comes from, but appreciating that labels are a conceptual overlay that give us a direction to look in, give us a perspective on things. But every label is loaded with implicit morality, good or bad, that kind of thing. But if you can label something, it's simplistic. It's superficial, surface level description that label is doing. That there is a whole world that actually exists below or beneath or beyond the level where labels are, and that can only be experienced, and it can't be defined, it can't be described, it can't be communicated accurately unless we we simplify it to the point where it's simplistic, and then we can communicate it. But it's not even close to what it is. We call we say white's white, and we look at a wall that's white or a cup that's white, and if you look at it closely, you'll discover that it goes from vivid on one side to shaded on the other side, and it's a million variations of white. But we just say it's white. So the label white, it's got its uses, but it's not even close to accurate. It can't be described. Reality is so complex that we can only experience it. We can't really describe it at the level that we can experience it at. And so, yeah, that world is where the magic is. That's the world where you go. That's your 2D world, or that's your world where you experience oneness. And it's not a visual thing. It's not a tactile thing. It's something that can't be described. It's just maybe it's a combination of many senses all together, but really it doesn't even make sense to think of any senses. It's just a feeling, an
Yeah,
experience. Yeah.
yeah, one thing, I guess like one way that I guess I verbalize like one I guess like when it comes to like something like an autistic trait or whatever, the social parts of it. Um, which I still like it's kind of like you're not aware of what you're not aware of. And um it's almost like everybody, I guess, normal brained in some way or however you want to describe it, right? They can pick up social cues naturally. And maybe some people can't. They're not autistic, but whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but like there's like almost like there's like a co-processor that's built into people to recognize those social cues. Um, naturally. It just happens. And like an autistic person just doesn't have that co-processor. So it
yeah,
all has to be done cognitively instead of automatically.
yeah, yeah,
And so
right.
it's an extra cognitive load, right? To like watch someone as they're talking and so on and so on. And then what I would say is different now about that is that I don't care. Not in a nihilistic way, but like it's just like I'm gonna make those mistakes and other people are gonna make those mistakes too that are not autistic or whatever. But it's just fine. Like it's just I don't it doesn't bother me. If anything now I notice that my conversations like in person especially um I can just sit and focus on them without a thought in my head and just consume what they're saying intently instead of me waiting and thinking about what I'm going to say.
Yeah,
I don't have
yeah,
to do that anymore.
absolutely.
And I told my doctor the other day about that, and she's like, "That's really great. Like, not a lot of people that are autistic would do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's cool, but like, that's how it is now. That's fine. That's just how it feels."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's excellent. Yeah. So I would say that well, let's use the word normal, so-called normal people, or rather, yeah, how can I put it? People that don't have that neurodivergent, whatever, DNA, um, their conditioning teaches them what body language is about. It all happens at an unconscious level, but they learn to respond. Whereas people that have got that people who are on the spectrum, um, there's something gets in the road of that conditioning when it happens. And so that they learn to do it a different way. Like you say, they learn to overlay things. And so this is an amazing thing. You really should be in some psychological magazine as an example of people moving out of. Would you say out of the autistic spectrum, or sideways into something a bit different? That's pretty amazing experience that you've had. I'll guarantee you, I'm imagining, but I feel strongly about this, that most people who are on the autistic spectrum would never imagine they could be anything other than that.
It's true. Um, there's a lot of that, absolutely, because I've gone to like autistic meetups and met other folks, and I'm fortunate, I guess, like, to be on the scale of like intensity, if you want to say, because it's just the way that, like, it has to be measured. But there's like level one, two, three, and they say high functioning, low functioning. Really, it's high masking and low masking is what it comes
Mm,
down to. It's better words, better language for that. But I've met some of those folks there, and I've hung out with them, and just even me, like, they're like, "You have a wife? You have a job?" Like, they can't believe it, right? Like
mm,
that I do that, but I'm diagnosed and everything. And it's like, well, yeah, because I'm like level one and high masking. And, it's also kind of like I didn't have, I mean, this is maybe just my personal way of looking at it, but I didn't have a diagnosis until a couple years ago. So I lived most of my life not knowing that, but I got to say it was really shit because it was just a struggle all the time. And I couldn't explain to anybody why it was a struggle. But because of that, I think it forced me to like live a normal life,
mm.
essentially, and uh, whereas, like, if I had a diagnosis earlier, maybe I would have had access to other supports, but maybe it would have been a limitation of
Yeah.
some kind.
And maybe it would have entrenched that way of doing things more too, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it sounds like at some point you self-diagnosed, uh, or you found a diagnosis of ADHD as a way of trying to describe what your experience was. Maybe.
Yeah. I went to like a neurotherapist and it said, like, I have all these issues with memory and a focus and attention kind of stuff. And I'm like, maybe it's this. So we went through the whole test and that's how that
Mm,
progressed.
yeah, it's interesting. When I've got a grandson who's been diagnosed as ADHD, and he has some problems as a result of that, or apparently as a result of that. So, yeah, I've got some experience in my life of that. But I kind of reckon that, well, I used to think, well, maybe I'm on the spectrum. And I'm sure, well, I've kind of imagined that everybody's on the spectrum. It's just that the whole lot of people are on level a half or a quarter or a third or a tenth or
Yeah.
whatever, not much. But yeah, but of course, there are those who are so far down the spectrum that they have trouble coping with normal daily life at all, that
Yeah.
then slightest sound sends them into a cringe or whatever. Yeah, that could be pretty overwhelming. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you're right. Like, because there is like, it's funny in the autistic like community, people don't like saying, "Oh, everybody's a little on the spectrum." But what's true is that those traits can be found all over the place. So, like someone that doesn't pick up on social cues, maybe that's all they have as a trait. They don't have enough to like push them into a
Mm,
diagnosis, right? And and that's fine. And it's hard, I think, for some people to recognize, and I think there's some identity that there where people just know you need to be like an autistic, like fully. You can't just have some of it. You got to have it all or something. Like there's this weird tribalism that even happens in those like forums and subreddits and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, my sister is was diagnosed autistic in the 90s, and nowadays she would be like level 3, like the most extreme you could possibly get. She'll never live on her own. She has to live in a group home, and she
Yeah.
doesn't
Mm,
she can't really speak she can speak, but she doesn't exchange language like we do. She basically just has very surface level scripts that she can run through. She asks you how your day is, and immediately just tells you how her day is, and it's like it's an order, it's a checklist she's going through.
yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
different experience for her. But yeah, yeah,
So if she lives with a high level of anxiety as a result of that, you can only feel compassion for her, can't you?
yeah. And that's the thing. She can't communicate if she has anxiety. She doesn't even know what that means.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we can see it, we
Yeah.
can definitely see if
Well,
she's
we
agitated.
see a certain reaction and we would describe it as that,
Yeah.
but that's just from the outside, isn't it? So what her experience is, we don't know because she doesn't communicate it very well.
Yeah, exactly.
That's an interesting one. My dog, for example, my wife is likes to give it treats, and my dog will come up and it'll rest its head on her shoulder and it'll put its paw across her chest, and it look, oh, it's so cute. It makes your heart melt. You think that this dog is showing affection. What it's really doing is saying, I want a treat, because it's been trained to to do that. But we can know it wants a treat, but we can still feel how cute it is and how wonderful it is that it appears to be showing affection.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, well, I'm just going to be quiet for a little while here and see if somebody else turns their camera on if they've got anything to say. Otherwise, we'll wind up. I'll have an early mark. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Do jump in if you want to say anything. It's interesting. It feels like I need a rest. It's been, even though I've been mostly listening, the energy involved or the something, it's like, wow, I just being quiet for a moment is a good recuperation thing. Yeah.
I just wanted to say hi, Vince, and thank you. We have much to say. It's lovely being silent with you.
Good stuff, Lou. Thank you.
I did have something else I wanted to bring up. Maybe get some
Oh,
thoughts on it.
yep.
Um, so one thing I've noticed is that like I can feel way more of the like ebbs and flows of the mind, like, and I guess an energy is a way to say it, but it's almost like I can tell when it's very excited and when it's really calm, like to a degree of like I can stand back and be like, wow, it's super excited right now. What like it's really, really wants to do a lot of stuff. And the way I can always tell is it's kind of starts running off and imagining scripts of like what you're going to say in the future. Like even before having like jumping into this, I could tell this morning like it just started going like I'm going to talk about this. I want to talk about that, and I'm like we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about when we get there. And I just like let it trail off and it just dissolves itself. But I can tell it's excited. But there's one instance in my day where it always kicks up, and it's not even like I'm not anticipating it. I just know it's going to happen, or like it'll kind of sneak up even like when it happens. But I go to take a shower, and I know that like showering from like a medical scientific perspective changes the way the brain waves are. I think it like goes into more gamma or something like that. And there's a reason why shower thoughts is a thing, because it changes the brain suddenly, like the brain waves, and then you get shower thoughts all of a sudden. You can think better in the shower, you do whatever in the shower. And I notice now that's a very real thing. And every time I like, sometimes it doesn't happen right away, sometimes it doesn't happen as much, but I can just tell that there's like this momentum that just sort of shifts every time I take a shower. And I'm like, wow, it's like so loud and starts talking a whole lot. And there's like so much going on in there every time, more music and more words. And I'm just like, what? Every time. I don't know if you've experienced that or if you have anything related to that or any ideas, but it's just something I've noticed.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. No, I haven't. I don't experience that. I experience the opposite. I kind of get lost in the feeling of the water, and I like a shower really hot, and I just really enjoy the feel of the water on me, the heat of the water and the pressure of the water, and being wet is just I love it. I just yeah. So I'm not actually aware of what you're talking about with the thought process. But yeah, that's interesting. I've never even heard the term shower thoughts before, but I get it. I get that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a subreddit dedicated to that called Shower Thoughts, and it's all these like just peculiar, odd thoughts that people have. They post there. But I think part of it too for me is like I've never really been big on like I guess I've always showered like since I was really little. Like I really didn't like baths, and I moved into showering very very young. But uh, I don't know. There was almost like that was like a escape, and it was a time to be alone with thoughts. And maybe that's like a tendency that's coming back, or like not coming back,
Yeah.
but like it's still there. And maybe that's all it is. It doesn't really concern me or anything. It's just something I've noticed, and I'm like, this is
Interesting.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, all this stuff is just interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So I would also see that as a kind of a burst of creativity, just as a way of describing, right? When thoughts are excited, there's a momentum, isn't there? There's an intensity about it that's it's creative. That's the only way I can really describe it. And it doesn't matter what's actually going on, but it feels like it's an expression of something. Something's happening.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah. And I wonder. I mean, I just have this thought turns up that says maybe it's got to do with the fact that you're in a bubble, so to speak. You're outside of social influence in a private bubble in the shower, and the consequence is you're not pushed or pulled or restricted by social norms anymore. You can be creative. You can just be spontaneous. That maybe I don't know if that makes any sense. But yeah. So do you find that a pleasant experience?
I think at first I was finding it a displeasant experience when I was like really enjoying the calm, and then it would like kind of flare up. But uh, now it's fine. Now there's no, like, it's a very neutral experience. I haven't really found it pleasant or displeasant in weeks.
Mm.
Um, I do think that you might be onto something there because I used to like also when I was in bands, I would just be like going through my lyrics all the time and like really thinking about how I was going to do every part of the song and how I was going to perform it and so on. And I would sing in the shower, even metal screaming in the shower, which was hilarious. But I would do all that in the shower, just like anybody would sing in the shower. But mine was screaming and growling. And that was something I used to do. So you might be onto something there. Like it felt like, yeah, the creative momentum was happening. It just, at the time, I wasn't aware that's what it
Yeah.
was. It
Yeah.
was just happening and I didn't care.
So one of the things that I do that I suspect might be, well, we'll see what happens when I tell you, and that is that things like this are really interesting, right? But what dampens it down is arriving at any conclusion about it. So
Mm.
whilever I'm interested and not coming to a conclusion, I'm open to what is actually going on. Isn't it interesting? Look there's the body doing what the body does. There's the mind doing what the mind does. And just noticing the interactions between them, noticing the momentum, the direction that they want to go in, just noticing stuff. It's really interesting. You know, that's a great way to meet. That's that relationship with what happens. That's where the juice is. That's the important stuff, not what actually happens, just how you feel about it. What is your relationship to it? That's where you deepen. That's where you discover more about whatever. But it's really because we get into paradoxes really quickly. And of course, the more you know you don't know. You know, so it's like,
Yeah.
wow, this is a mystery, but what a fucking wonderful mystery it is. It's just beautiful, you know, because I don't have to know. I can just enjoy what I don't know. Yeah. I know, it sounds crazy, I know. I mean, you wouldn't say this in normal circumstances. People would just, they'd lock you up, you know, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. Yeah. There was like, when I was younger, there was like a certainty that I thought there was to religions. And then once you explore a bunch of them, you're like, wait a minute, no one's got the answer. What's going on? And then it just all starts to, and then your inquisitive mind can't stop at that point, right? And it's been like that ever since.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the shower thing is, uh, for me, it's like, if I want to at the time, I'm like, I don't really want to have this much attention in my head. I've been just more in the body. That's kind of my go-to every time. Like I don't know what it's doing. I don't care what it's doing. And it doesn't matter. And I just kind of sit in my body more. And especially with the shower or something like where I've noticed like there's this flare up and I'm like, I wonder how much more I can like kind of detach from the thought and just be in my body more to feel the shower more. And that's sort of something that I've been doing and kind of playing with is like, you know, does it calm down if I focus on my breath and like the water and things hitting me and like, oh, I'm like washing myself. I feel that like more, like does it calm down? Does it affect it, and just playing with it. That's kind of what I've been doing recently.
Yeah. Experiment. That's a big experiment. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. And here's a here's an offering. I was going to say here's a thought. Here's an offering that is interesting that I suspect you're in a position to appreciate, and that is that thoughts aren't just a narration in the head. You know, I'm not even talking about visual thoughts or auditory thoughts or whatever. But when we experience thoughts and we recognize where we put it into the context of a story, there's a story that these thoughts are a little. I was going to say a little movie, but I mean not necessarily involving visual stuff, but they're more than just when do you hear your thoughts as words? Do you see them as text? Are they
Uh, I
what?
can I can manipulate it to see them as text, but by default I hear them as words.
Yeah. So they can be something that's a bit undefinable, indefinable.
Yeah.
You can't really specify what they are, you know. So when you kind of approach it from that angle, you can't really differentiate your thoughts from your sensations because your sensations are also not just a tactile thing, although we might begin looking at them as if they were tactile, something we feel, right? They become more. That feeling can't be, you can't really even locate it in a particular spot. It's moving, it's changing, it's varying, and it can include thoughts. It's like it becomes a whole of body experience where the thoughts are not a different process to your feelings, to your sensations. Right? The thoughts, they just are part of this. I was going to say the spectrum. They're the not the spectrum that we would talk about with autism, but just that the range of how we experience it. It becomes a whole of body experience. Um, Whereas at the other end, we can go, oh, yeah, it's just a thought and it says such and such, and we can put it into a little narration about it. But this is the other end of that same spectrum where you can't really differentiate between your thoughts and your feelings. They run together.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And I noticed like yeah, there's something about like as this goes on, it's easier to pick up on really subtle things and like sometimes, like automatic thoughts will come up and you could say they're triggering or activating. Maybe not largely, it's just sometimes it's like there's like certain thoughts just have a weight to them. And you can like feel the physical sensation that happens from it. Like, ooh,
Yeah,
that
yeah. But that's
that
different to
thought
what I
wasn't
was
nice.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. That's a different to what I was talking about. In the sense that it's really clear there that a thought provokes a feeling. Right. So there is the thought story, and then there's a response to that thought story. But this is the other way around. This is almost like there's a there's a there's a is it that there's a story that provokes a feeling that provokes a thought that provokes a response. So
Right, I get you.
yeah,
Okay.
we and multiple levels, and you can go down and down and down, and there's so what's down there is we can imagine logically that there is a story that we're responding to, but we don't know what that story is. So our first recognition of something happening is just a sensation, but we respond to the sensation with thoughts. And then we
Hmm.
respond to those thoughts with sensation and further thoughts and so on. So there's no beginning and there's no end to this process. It just mixes up really,
Yeah.
really subtly, like the merging is just wow. So that we reach the point where those thoughts are not really separate.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Right? And if you can get into that, you can get into looking at it, not that those thoughts or that experience happens to you, but you are that. You are the experience. That's all there is that experience. You have to get into your head to say it's happening to somebody called Preston or it's happening to Preston's body or whatever. But
Yeah.
but if you're not in your head, it's just you are that experience. That's it.
Yeah. I can see I can see what you're pointing at. I get that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so there is no experiencer experiencing something. There is just experiencing. And the only way you can find an experiencer or something being experienced is with thought in your head. And that's
Right.
separate thoughts. No longer is it integrated.
Yeah.
And when you are that experiencing, if you're experiencing what you might call the world out there or another person, you are that too. It can't exist without you experiencing it.
It's a tricky one to
Yeah.
like, and
Yeah.
I like that because it's like I can't even bother to grasp it, so I just stop. Like stop here in my head trying to grasp it.
That's it. That's perfect. If the mind stops, if the mind gives up, then that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna work on that. I think that they gave me something there to chew on,
Yeah.
to look into.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Sweet.
All right. Well, it's 1:45 here, so I'm going to go to bed. And I'm
Yeah, okay.
really pleased you came along, mate. I'm so glad you're here. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm glad I found this. It's super cool.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. Well, I hope to see you again and again and again. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'll try to make it. Sunday's fine. Saturday's a little early. The Thursday one, I think it's Thursday my time, Friday your time. That's fine too. That works.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah.
Bye. Thank you. Thanks, Vince.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you, Anton.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Good night.
Night.